All right, well, welcome back to the DIY garage inspired inspirational singer build that I'm doing on my 1977 Porsche. You have seen so far that I revamped the front suspension, got that kind of modernized and brought back into the modern world. However, as with everything with old classic cars, things wear out, things just get ruined, and the age old while I'm in there always creeps into everybody's mind, especially mine. So today is going to be revamping and rebuilding the steering to make sure the steering in this car is also up to 2024, 2025, I should say, spec. And that means rebuilding the rack and pinion of the steering rack. So this right here is the culprit. It's just, this isn't supposed to be laggy like this. It's supposed to be kind of a free spinner. There's supposed to be a little bit of lag to it, but there's just too much going on here. So this is what needs to be fixed. Could be a few different things. It could be simply that the grease is just dried up and things aren't spinning correctly, or it could be other things. So this is the puck. This just essentially applies the pressure that you would feel inside your rack that makes things tight and responsive. There's absolutely no wear on this whatsoever. That is a relief. I've already loosened this up, so it's pretty easy to take this off. There are bearings involved in this, which could also be the culprit, but I really just want to inspect everything. So far, things are looking like they're in spec, but just want to inspect it and make sure everything is where they should be, and if anything isn't, to either replace or repair. Let's see if you can see this, because I mean, grease isn't supposed to come out in chunks like this. It's supposed to be pretty pliable and greasy, but you can see that it's kind of, it's just too thick in here, and there's some, I don't know, so maybe it just needs to be re-greased. Shit. Okay, hold on. Got the needle bearings falling out, which is not what I wanted. All right, so I have everything disassembled, the steering rack itself. These are all the actual needle bearings that go inside the housing of the rack right here. The rack itself, all cleaned up and good to go, plus the pinion. I think that this right here might be at least one of the issues. I think this is a dead bearing. I think this is no good. I guess we'll see. It's kind of doesn't really spin very freely. It spins, but it's not like, you know, frictionless. Obviously with grease in there, it's not gonna be frictionless, but I still think that this play right here is not really good. Just to address it, I'm gonna get a new one. They're like $10. So I'm gonna replace it, see if that does anything, but I don't know. I don't have anything to reference it to, so I think just changing it and seeing if it works, it won't hurt it. All right, so this is where we're at now. We're kind of getting into some crazy territory. I'm gonna be trying to pull this bearing off of this. Wish me luck. Came off somewhat without a hiccup at all. And then this new one is going to get pressed on there. You can either hammer it on or use a press, as long as you find the right type of socket or pipe or something like that to go around the inner race. It should be pretty easy just to get it on there. Perfect. And no play whatsoever. Okay, that's good. Whew! Pressing things on is always a bit of a scary thing. So originally I thought that this bearing, which I'm correct in assuming that there was some play in it, but I thought this might have been the issue when it came to all that stickiness. However, I think the main issue lies right here. This is where the needle bearings right here rest on when it's inside basically the top part of the steering rack. I don't know if you can tell, there's some scores right here, probably from, I don't know, obviously just years and years of use, but as you go around, there's a nice little convenient gap right here in all of the scores. I don't know if you can see it or not. I can't get much closer than this. There's a convenient gap that looks like it's missing about 3 needles from, right here. From another user that I've seen who was rebuilding his steering rack, you should actually check him out. His name is Joe Engineer. He does a lot of Porsche stuff. Really amazing, like in-depth stuff. That's why I felt confident enough in doing this. He had 29 needles in his rack when it came out in his housing. I only had 26, and conveniently enough, there's that little gap right there that looks like it would hold just the right amount of 3 needles. So I think I was missing 3 needles. I don't know. So for that reason, I'm going to be putting in this new bearing right here. It needs to get pressed into the housing, but all of its needles are caged, so they can't fall out or do anything. So this is going to be a lifesaver. All right, so the next thing that needs to come out is this little bearing housing inside right here. This is probably the scariest part because it's just such a tight tolerance, but essentially you can find a socket that directly matches up with the diameter or the hole, and just go through the back side right here. This happens to be a 5/8 socket, so it fits pretty much flush and perfect. Sweet, just like that. Bearing came out. That was a lot easier than it felt. All right, this is the new one. Like I said, it's a caged bearing, so it's going to be nice and more modern and not just free-flowing needles. So just press this back inside. Hopefully this one goes just as smooth. Now when you're doing this, the bearing should go down far enough past the recess so that the O-ring is not flush with the surface. It needs to have, a micro amount of recess beyond the face of this little flat surface here so that nothing rubs on the O-ring and destroys it. So you gotta press it down. I'm just gonna go down to the mark the previous one was on. Man, it should be good. That should be good. So I guess the only thing left to do now is reassemble it and see if I fixed anything. I sure hope that I did. All right, it's gonna get extremely greasy from here on out because this whole thing basically relies on grease. So, and honestly, you can be a little liberal with it, let's be honest here. Seems to be pretty evenly coated with grease. There we go. All right, next up is getting this inside here, which is what actually allows everything to turn freely and smoothly. So now, before I go any further, I want to check and make sure that the shims will still fit with here. And these shims are so important because it allows the bearing to have a completely flush surface with the mounting plate right here. So there's absolutely no vertical play whatsoever in the bearing at all. So everything stays exactly where it's supposed to be, hopefully forever. But these look and feel completely flush. Perfect. All right, now we put in that O-ring that will be recessed. Slip it in there. Kind of seat it where it's supposed to be sat. This washer is going to sit right on this little lip right here that's part of the actual shaft itself. That way, like I said, it's not going to rub on this O-ring whatsoever, but the O-ring is still going to act as a seal to keep any debris and anything out and in. So that sits there nicely. Then this goes on right on top. It should be as vertical as possible. That's at least how I took it off. You want to ideally make sure that the ends of your shaft are pretty much identical. I mean, you could get precise with it and use a tape measure if you really want to. And then this is a self-locking nut, so that can snug itself up as well. Look at that. So much better than what it previously was. Honestly, it's probably just the grease, but this feels amazing. I just got to put that puck in because that's going to give a little bit more pressure on the actual rod itself. But other than that, this is feeling amazing. And the last piece of the puzzle is the puck that goes in there. Puts the pressure on the actual rack or the bar with the teeth in it, which gives you actual like feedback, response, everything in the actual steering. So I'm just basically put that in there, grease it up big time, use the shims that came with it in the spring, and you're done. Last but not least, just check how fluid it moves. And obviously with the puck on there, there's gonna be some drag, but this is so much better. It actually turns. All right, and there you have it. That is a rebuilt, refurbished 1977 Porsche 911 steering rack. It really only honestly took me, if I worked on it for the whole day, I did this through a few different days, but if I worked on this just non-stop for one day straight, it probably would have taken me 4 to 6 hours if I had everything that I needed. So the bearings were needed, so I would make sure you have bearings if you're gonna do this. I think the total cost of bearings for me was like $18. $18, brand new bearings. I got a new bushing and some new little things here and there. So I would say with the grease, with the bearings, with this new rubber bushing right here, I would say less than $100 worth of parts. And for a Porsche, especially for something as expensive and necessary as the steering rack, I say price very well. But yeah, that's how you rebuild a steering rack. Pretty simple. It looks a lot scarier than it is because of all the actual crazy components that are in the inside, the gears, the bushings, the bearings, the O-rings, using a press. A press is not needed, I just have one, so it's much easier for me, but you can heat these up, you can use a hammer with the sockets, things will still come out. But I'm very happy and very pleased with the end result of this. So the next thing is tie rods on, suspension in the car, and we're good to go. But you will already have seen the suspension in the car by the time you see this video. So this is just a specific steering rack video. The other video is going to be a full front end suspension video. So steering rack complete. I'll see you guys in the next video.